Hello, my name is Shlomo Meital. קוראים לי שלמה מיטל. אני חושב שאני אעבור לאנגלית. My name is Shlomo Meital. I'm a Technion professor, pensioner. I work at the Nieman Institute for National Policy Research, and I'm very happy to speak to you about patents. I'm choosing to speak in English, partly because I think it's important for all those who are interested in being startup entrepreneurs to work on their English, because from day one you will have to communicate in English with people abroad. So let me do this in English, and if there's demand, and I can always do it again in Hebrew. I'm really happy to speak to you about patents. It's an important subject for all startup entrepreneurs. I'll try my best to give you useful information. Before we begin, I just want to mention, it's a known fact that a lot of great ideas emerge from desperate times. For example, television was invented during the Great Depression in the early 1930s. So most of us are spatially isolated at home, spatially separated, and we have time to think about ideas, inventions, things that meet real needs, both during this time of emergency, but also when things get better. A very small story about this. In 2003, China had an attack of SARS. And during SARS, there was quarantine, and all businesses closed and people were at home. A startup called Alibaba, which had been launched in 1999, was just getting rolling in 2003, and then everybody was sent home. Jack Ma, the founder, being a strong leader, decided that they would use the opportunity, seize the opportunity, and told all of his people working at home that they would build a new platform for online retailing, online sales. That platform became Express. Many of you have used AliExpress, have bought things on it. Alibaba has a market value of hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a highly successful company, and that platform was built when people were quarantined at home, communicating by modems, by phone, and working on the platform that was ready for launch when the SARS emergency ended. Other companies suspended everything and just fastened their seatbelts and waited, and Alibaba gained an opportunity. So if you're an entrepreneur, startup entrepreneur, if you have a business, see how you can use this opportunity, this emergency, to think about your next step when things recover. Because perhaps many of your competitors are hunkering down and perhaps not thinking of that, and you may gain an advantage. So let's begin and talk about everything you always wanted to know about patents. And I'll tell you my main message in case I put you to sleep during my talk, which is quite possible. I'm great at that. And the main message is do it yourself. You can write your own patent. A patent is expensive when you use a patent lawyer. Patent lawyers, that can cost you up to $50,000. And many startups don't have that kind of money. You can write your own patent. It's possible, and I'll tell you how to do it during my talk. There are some disadvantages, but the main advantage is nobody understands your invention better than you do. And you can spend a lot of time with a patent lawyer. That time can be expensive. Lawyers bill you by hours, and they don't always fully, completely understand your idea. And hence, if you learn the language of patents, the legalese of it, you perhaps can do a better job in writing your patent up than the lawyer. You have more time, and you will save money, and you'll learn a valuable skill, and you'll learn not only how to write a patent, you'll learn about how to read a patent, which is very important. So let's begin. Here are the topics that I'd like to address. First, what is a patent? Where do you apply for a patent? I'd like you to consider doing a provisional patent application, not a provisional patent. There is no such thing, but a provisional patent application. It's a very brief and inexpensive initial step toward a patent. It gives you first to file. You are the first to have the idea. If somebody else tries to file the same idea later, you are there first. You have a year to file a real full patent application. During that year, you can spend it writing up your own patent. So consider, if you have an idea, consider a provisional patent application. However, you'll have to do a search to see whether other people have had the same idea. And there are 10 million patents in the United States alone. So I'll show you how to do a patent search later. As I said, consider doing it yourself. Learn the language of patents. There's a huge amount of useful information, because the key point about a patent is that you must reveal all. You must tell everything about your discovery, your invention. You cannot hide things. And that's, of course, a possible disadvantage, because you're giving valuable information away to possible competitors. But it also means that when you read patents, you can learn a great deal, but it's written in legalese. So you have to learn the language of patents so you can understand what they mean. Should you patent? When do you patent, and when do you keep your ideas secret? We'll talk about that. Can you patent software? How do you search already existing patents so that you don't reinvent the wheel, waste a lot of time, and then you present a patent application and the patent examiner tells you, hey, that already exists in patent number 8,422,161, and that happened to me, by the way. A patent is the right to litigate. What does that mean, the right to litigate? So we'll talk about what a patent does for you and what it does not protect you for. We'll talk about trademarks. So trademarks are copyright, and that's different from a patent, which is protection for an invention. And finally, I'd like to discuss, do patents make money? Can you make money from a patent? And the answer is almost certainly no, but there are some really, really neat examples where patents made a great deal of money for Google and for Amazon. So let's set out and talk about patents. And we'll start by defining what is a patent. A patent is a right granted to an inventor by the government, and it permits the inventor to exclude others from making, selling, or using the invention. And this is for a period of time. The United States patent, it gives these rights to the inventor for 20 years, possible to renew later. You have to meet certain criteria in order to be granted a patent. It's not automatic. Basically, a patent is the right to litigate. Litigate means to use the law courts and to sue people. So suppose you have an invention and you patent it, and then a company comes along and reads the patent and simply uses your knowledge and makes the product or the service that you invented. You can sue them in court. Litigation, hiring lawyers is expensive. So the right to litigate given to you by patent, if you don't have money, and most inventors don't have money, then you can't litigate, and you're kind of vulnerable. The protection you have is that big companies are reluctant to violate patents, because if you do file a suit, even if you don't have the money to pursue it, if you file a suit, it makes them look really bad. So most reputable big companies do not violate patents. And they have their own R&D people, and they can find ways around. You can find a way around a patent. And we'll talk later maybe about Picot patenting, because a single patent isn't that helpful. It's like putting a tiny roadblock on a road, and people can go around it to the right or to the left. And big companies can put teams to work and find a way around a blocking patent. So some big companies use multiple patents to protect a key area with all kinds of patents that make it very hard for you to go around them. So where do you apply for a patent? Israel has a Rasham Patentim, somebody who accepts patent applications. You can patent an invention in Israel. You can patent in the United States. You can patent in China. You can patent in individual national countries. Nations have patent offices, and you can apply to these national patent offices, and your patent is valid in the country where your patent is applied for and granted, like in the United States. The United States is a $16 trillion economy, so many inventors like to apply for their patent in the US Patent and Trademark Office. But that patent is valid for the United States and not for other countries. The European Union is a union of 28 countries, actually 27, with Britain having withdrawn. And there is a European Patent Office, and you can apply to the European Patent Office. And that simplifies applying in each of the 27 countries, which can be long and complicated and expensive, but ultimately you will still need to do that, but the European Patent Office can help speed that up and simplify it and make it a little less costly. There's also an international patenting process. Big companies use it. There's something called the World Intellectual Property Organization, and you can apply for a global patent through the WIPO, and that again simplifies the bureaucracy a bit. But in the end, your patent still has to go to the national offices who have to approve it. So when I applied for my patent, we thought about patenting in the US, we thought about Israel, we thought about China, patenting in China. China was once regarded as a thief that stole intellectual property. They realized the disadvantages of that and cleaned up their act and built a legitimate patent office. And now many inventors do patent in China, which is a huge market. China is the world's second largest economy. But in the end, my partner and I, we decided to apply for the patent in the United States, the US Patent and Trademark Office. The first thing you need to do when you have an idea is to find out if somebody thought about it before. There are 10 million patents in the United States alone. So there are a lot of ideas that have been patented. If you go to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, if you go to their website, you can do a search of these 10 million patents using keywords. It takes some time. If you're good at using keywords, you can get a lot of information, and you may be surprised at how many ideas have been patented that are rather similar to yours. You can also use google.com/patents, and there are a number of other free sites. So before you go to call a lawyer for your patent, do your own search because you can save yourself some money and some time. So all patent applications begin with a really careful, thorough search, whether your idea has been patented already, what the similar ideas are. We did this for our patent, my partner and I, and still in the end, we had a patent examiner who challenged us and pointed out that IBM had patented something roughly similar 10 years before, and our patent application was declined. That was painful. We appealed. We had a video conversation with the patent examiner, a brilliant young man who was studying law and moonlighting, doing a job as a patent examiner. He was very conscientious. and he rejected our appeal, and we lost. So our patent application was rejected, and this can happen. So again, I want to emphasize this point. A patent is basically a right to litigate, because if somebody violates your patent, unless you sue them, nothing will happen. So you have to reveal everything in your patent, and people can read your idea and use it and adapt it maybe, and legally circumvent your patent, or illegally copy it, and then produce their own gadget, and you can sue them, but it can be very expensive and very time consuming. Also, you can be sued as well. So you have to be careful with your idea. If you are making something, you may get a letter called Cease-and-Desist. These are very unpleasant letters. They come from lawyers, and they say, unless you stop at once producing this product because you are violating our patent, we will sue the pants off you. And then you have to go through an expensive legal process or suspend your business or maybe even close it. So make sure when you do produce something, if you're not going to patent, make sure you're not violating a patent, because you can get this awful cease-and-desist letter where somebody else is litigating for you. And by the way, there are companies that make a living simply by doing this, and seeking damages as part of their business. And it's legal, unpleasant, but keep this in mind. Now, patents are a legal device. They're part of the law. They give you protection under the law and access to the law courts. And that means that patents are written in the language of the law, in what we call legalese. So on the screen, you can see the United States patent number 6,285,999, patented on September 4th, 2001, by Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders of Google, and it's a patent that describes a new method of doing search. It's quite interesting because when Google was started and Google announced that they were producing a search engine, a lot of people said, we don't need another search engine. We have Netscape, we have all kinds of browsers. What do we need Google for? And of course, the rest is history. You can read the abstract of the patent on the screen, and it's pretty clear about what it does and how it works. There are claims and diagrams in the patent. Claims are how the algorithm of Brin and Page would be used. A lot of the patent is kind of legalese, but it also contains a lot of great information. Reading the first sentence, the patent is for a method for assigning importance ranks to nodes, websites in a linked database, such as any database of documents containing citations, World Wide Web, or any other hypermedia database. The rank assigned to a document is calculated from the ranks of documents citing it. So we already have a clue about a simple basis of this key Google algorithm. The rank of a document is calculated from a constant representing the probability that a browser through the database will randomly jump to the document. It's probabilistic. So we learned a bit about this algorithm. And by the way, in America, algorithms, that is, rules for solving a problem, algorithms and software can be patented. In Europe, they cannot. So it's really useful to learn the language of patents so you can read patents and kind of understand what the ideas are and where people are going and what the trends are, and track them. Very, very useful and something worth doing. It's a skill worth developing. Learn the language of patents. Now, how do you do this? Well, this is a story about David Pressman. And David was an entrepreneur, wasn't successful, but a part of being an entrepreneur, he began to learn about patents and ultimately ended up writing a book, over 800 pages. And his startup wasn't successful, but boy, his book sure was. And it's going into its 20th edition in August of this year. It's called Patent It Yourself, Your Step-by-Step Guide to Filing at the U.S. Patent Office. It costs $50. It's really good investment. I urge you to buy this book and learn how to do it yourself. You may, in the end, hire a patent lawyer. There are some advantages, but it's still worthwhile learning the language of patents and learning the ins and outs. And if you read this book carefully and invest time in it, it will pay you back good dividends. So this is highly recommended, and it is the best book on the subject. Patent It Yourself by David Pressman and David Blau, published by Nolo. And the new version is coming out in August of 2020. A suggestion. You have an idea. You don't have 50,000 bucks. What do you do? Because you want to protect yourself, and you know that other people are working on this. And the rule is the person who gets the property rights, the intellectual property for an idea, is the first to file for a patent application. So how do you get yourself placed in the queue, an early place in the queue? How can you be first in line? You can file a provisional patent application. This is not a provisional patent, as we sometimes hear. It's a provisional application. It establishes an early filing date. You're the first, but it's not a full-fledged patent application. It includes a description, basic drawings. It doesn't require you to make claims how this thing is going to be used or any other information disclosure. And it's very cheap. It's inexpensive. So if you do this, and if your patent ultimately matures into a full-fledged patent application, you are the first to file. You are the first in line. And this can be quite important. I want to mention something important as well about first to file. Sometimes people are working on the same idea. There are a lot of groups who are working on the idea. How can you prove that you had the idea first? So many laboratories, for example, keep laboratory diaries. And in the diary, you write every day what you did and what you found. Suppose you're Alexander Fleming and you have a Petri dish and you see this mold and it is protecting cells from the invading bacteria around it. You write this in your diary. You have the diary witnessed, or you photocopy it and mail it to yourself by registered mail. But you find some way of recording that information, that discovery, when you make it. And then if there is litigation, which there may be, you can come to court and say, this is proof I was the first. It's written down. Here's the written proof. Keep a diary. Have the diary witnessed, notarized, or registered mail. Send it to yourself, but find a way to verify your claim in case you have to litigate at some later point. A lot of startups are based on software and algorithms. For example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural networks. My wife and I have 4 children. Our youngest is the CEO of a startup called Waycare Technologies. Waycare uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to manage traffic flows, currently in Greater Las Vegas. Technology developed by 2 brilliant Technion graduates in computer science. There are patents. And in the US, you can patent software and patent algorithms. In the European, this seems to be not the case. It's not easy to patent software. As you saw, Google did it very successfully. So it can be done. If you have code that you've written, then it is possible to patent it. Do patents make money? No, they don't. They don't make money on average or in general or usually or almost always. And by the way, universities encourage faculty to patent ideas. And for a long time, I've been arguing that this may not be a great idea because sometimes the process of trying to appropriate intellectual property scares away investors. And universities like MIT and Stanford instead encourage faculty to do startups and give them the intellectual property. And often the inventors are grateful and pay the universities back handsomely if they succeed. But there are 10 million patents and very, very, very few of them in the US make money. However, let's look at the exceptions. Amazon really got rolling with a simple, brilliant idea. And it wasn't a device. Normally we patent devices, things that are tangible. It was an idea, it was a business method, a business model. And it was called one-click checkout. Tell me your information, list your credit card information, your address, etc. I'll record it. And then when you want to buy something, click on it. And that one click buys you the product. Fast, easy, great for impulse buying. And that was Amazon's basic idea. And they patented that one-click patent in 1999. And it was challenged and battled in court and fought out, and they won. Amazon is a company with market value of, I think, about $600 billion. That's a lot. And a great deal of that is due to this simple one-click process for selling stuff that Amazon uses to sell online. So this patent, which expired, by the way, in 2017, the one click is still trademarked, but the patent expired because it was applied for in 1997, I believe, so 20 years. But this is an example, a rare exception to patents that make money. And this one made a lot of money. Here's another example. Drugs are patented. There's a drug called Lipitor. It was developed by Pfizer, patented in 1991. Patent took some time. By the way, it takes time for patents to be examined, discussed, litigated, argued, debated, and issued. So it wasn't issued until December 28th, 1993. That's 2 years. Lipitor is an anti-cholesterol drug. It's a cholesterol-lowering drug. I think I actually have Lipitor in my pillbox. It was launched, the product was launched in 1997. Took a while. It has to go through FDA clinical trials, 3 stages. But the revenue it made was above $105 billion. The claim is that this may be one of the most valuable patents ever produced, certainly in the area of drugs, and made the company a great deal of money. Of course, the patent is expired now, and the drug is made generically, and it costs a whole lot less. So part of the reason drugs are so expensive is that companies have to make back their R&D costs in the 20 years that the patent is valid before it becomes in generic versions. I don't think this justifies some of the astronomical prices of drugs, but that's another subject. So yes, patents can make money, but boy, it's really, really rare. So in order to develop your idea, You can patent it. Investors like intellectual property, but don't count on the patent making money. You have to build a business based on it if you want to spread your idea. And the patent is simply a way of protecting yourself. My own patent story. A good friend of mine, Arya Rudenberg, and I had an idea of developing an idea for a book in which the readers would become the authors as well. And they would add diagrams and music and additional stories or revisions or changes. And through a website, we would create a crowd-based process for writing a book and for improving a book. We hired a patent lawyer. We wrote up the patent. We sent the patent off to the United States Patent Office. We debated patenting in China, patenting in the US, patenting in Israel. We decided on the US, big market. We applied for the patent, spent a lot of time writing it up, explaining it to the lawyer. We had a very good patent lawyer. The patent was submitted in the United States. The patent examiner rejected it. We appealed. Patent examiner said, IBM thought of this idea and patented it 10 years ago. We said, it wasn't the same. The IBM patent is significantly different from our idea. The patent examiner disagreed. We had a conference call. We debated with him. We argued. We made the case. Our lawyer helped us, and we lost, and the patent was rejected by an astute patent examiner. This can happen. So keep this in mind. This can be costly. You end up paying the lawyer fees without a patent. Not all patents are approved. So keep in mind your patent can be rejected. Do your homework thoroughly. We tried. I guess we weren't thorough enough. Another reason for patenting. For some reason, investors like to know that there is a patent behind a startup. When they invest in a startup, venture capitalists really like it when there are patents, because the patent gives you some degree of protection. They're not investing in a company whose ideas will be stolen, at least not easily. Patents are nice to have. So one reason that many startups apply for patents is simply to become more attractive for investors. There's some logic behind this. I'm not entirely sure about it. I'll tell you why. Keep in mind, if you want to get a patent, if you want to apply for a patent, you cannot conceal crucial facts. You have to do a complete striptease. You have to show exactly how this darn thing works. If you hide things, if you submit a patent and conceal valuable information, your patent can be rejected legally or challenged later and thrown out of court. So the downside of a patent is that you have to tell a lot of things. You have to reveal. Google had to reveal exactly what their algorithm was based on and how it worked. People could learn how they did it and maybe adapt a probabilistic approach to a search algorithm. But on the other hand, they're protected. Nobody could do it exactly as they did. So patents are nice to have, especially for investors. But the downside is you have to reveal valuable information that others may be able to use in order to circumvent your patent. That's why there's something called Picot Patenting. Picot is a fence. And if you take out a core patent and then other patents around that core patent, you can protect a rather large area. It's expensive to do that. Big companies do it. Japanese companies do that. I think the concept of Picot patenting is actually used most widely by the Japanese. But keep in mind a single patent often can be circumvented. People can find a way around it. If you really want to protect a core idea, you may have to take out several patents. Now, patents have things called claims. Claims are how the thing can be used, different ways. I think the Google patent had 29 claims. It's tempting to put in a lot of claims in your patent because then the patent is sort of stronger rather than taking out individual patents, which is expensive. On the other hand, if you have too many claims, sometimes they can be rejected. So there's a kind of trade-off here. But keep in mind that a single patent, often ways can be found around it, and patents are revealing. You can learn a lot. So learn how to read patents. You can gain a lot of information. While we're talking about patents, I think I should mention something called a trademark or a service mark. You know, sometimes we see a logo and a little TM sign. TM stands for trademark, TM. Trademark is like a patent, but for a word or a phrase or a symbol or a design. So a trademark is relevant for a logo or a slogan. You have 3 words, a mantra that identifies your product. You can kind of copyright it. You can gain the right to it just the same way that you do in patenting and invention. And a service mark is like a trademark, SM instead of TM, and it's it protects a service rather than a good. And these all go through the U.S. PTO. Excuse me. They all go through the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So if you have a clever logo or a slogan or a mantra, think carefully about trademarking it when you patent the product as well. And of course, a copyright is the intellectual property for words, like a book. So we copyright books by sending a copy to the Library of Congress, and the process is similar to that for a patent. And you can also copyright a TV commercial that you use in order to market the product. And here's a good example for a copyrighted trademark. This is the swoosh, the famous swoosh of Nike. And the slogan or the mantra is just do it. And that swoosh is on Nike's products. And we all recognize this is Nike when we see the swoosh. It's a long story about how that swoosh was developed. Very clever idea. So keep in mind, think about not only patenting your product, but also trademarking your mantra, trademarking your logo, so that other people cannot copy it and capture some of your very hard work. I think we've covered pretty much all that we need to know about patents and trademarks. I want to return to the basic point that I made, your basic take home, which is do it yourself. DIY, do it yourself. Read the book, learn how to read a patent, learn how to write a patent. It's a lot harder. Read lots of patents, track patents, constantly search for new patents. You can sense where markets are heading, where ideas are heading by doing good searches, and make this a core skill for you as a successful startup entrepreneur. Even if it doesn't work, in our case, our patent was rejected. Okay, we lost money, but I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about writing patents. I learned a lot about reading patents. And that was a useful skill. Knowledge is also always valuable. So I think that ends our discussion of patents. I'm going to put on the screen my email. if I can, so that if you wish, you can email me if you have questions, or contact me, or we can perhaps chat by phone. My email is smaytel@tx.technion.ac.il. I hope my English has been clear and understandable. I hope you understand why I chose to do this talk in English. I'd like to thank Dina Raphael for giving me this opportunity. And if there is a request, I'm willing to do this in Hebrew as well. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you good luck.